What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am so happy that you are here. Today we are looking at the newest leaks. Legendary Heartbeat. This is 2 sets from now, so I won't have to worry about this for a while, but it's really exciting when new cards are released, and I wanted to show off kind of what some of the things we can look forward to in the future are. So I'm going to highlight some of these cards. I think this set is very interesting for a number of reasons, and we'll get to why. And I think that there are a lot of things to be excited about. There's not really any cards that I see immediately that are unbelievable, that are just going to blow everything out of the water, maybe like Eternatus does for Darkness Ablaze. But I think there's a lot of really solid options right now in this set, and some really interesting, again, intriguing cards. So let's go on down the list here. We see that there is a Celebi. This is the first of the amazing rares to be produced. Well, maybe not the first, but the amazing rares as a whole are a new type of card in the TCG, and we see that they just have this cool little artwork. I think these cards are absolutely stunning to look at. Energy Press, the first attack, does 30 damage. For the number of energy attached to your opponent's active, and then Amazing Bloom. Search your deck for a card that evolves from each of your Pokemon and play those cards onto the top of those Pokemon to evolve them. So obviously the first attack, fine, but the second attack is really where you're probably going to get the most value out of Celebi, and it's a really intriguing card in the sense that we already have a card that kind of does something similar in the Rowlet and Alolan Executor. But that attack cost is for free and on a GX, and the trade-off here is that you get to attack for, on a basic, but for 2 energy that are wildly different. So of course we do have things like Tapu Koko to maybe accelerate energy from the discard pile to maybe get this powered up in 1 turn, but it's going to be difficult to make use of this, I think, fully, because you'll have to find a bunch of benched Pokemon to get out to use your Amazing Bloom on. But anyway, something to keep in mind. I'm sure that there will be a deck that will run this. The other grass Pokemon that I think is really interesting is the Shaymin. Flower Transport, flip a coin. If heads, your opponent flips their active Pokemon face down and shuffles it back into their deck. So this is really, really a cool card that we don't often see, where it's just kind of like an auto flip of your opponent's active, especially on a basic like this, for a pretty reasonable attack cost. So you have grass, colorless on this attack, and it's something that you look at for like legacy format that maybe could have some impact there, but especially with the new stadium that we're going to get, flipping coins on attacks isn't such a big deal anymore. And of course we have Will and that kind of thing, so I could definitely see a type of stall deck using this Shaymin to just shuffle in repeatedly your opponent's active. The cool thing about Flower Transport that I do want to mention is that it doesn't shuffle the Shaymin back. A lot of times with this effect in the past, you've shuffled your opponents, but then there's been some type of drawback. So the drawback here is that you flip a coin. Flipping a coin can be mitigated by things like Will or the new stadium. And so it's a much better effect. It's a much better card. And look out for this card in the future. Some ho-hums here, finishing out the grass, but we do have to mention Zarude V. Now, Zarude V, bind down for its first attack. Your opponent's active can't retreat. And then the second attack is pretty wild for a basic Pokemon. You would expect this to be on a VMAX. And we've already seen this attack before on the Mega Skeptile. But to have it on a basic Pokemon is just very, very interesting. So we see it here. Zarude V with Jungle Rise. 100 damage. You may attach up to 2 energy cards from your hand to your Pokemon in any way you like. And then you heal all damage from those Pokemon. So like, not only are you getting the energy acceleration, but you also get to heal. That's pretty impressive. I like this card a lot. We'll see if it can see any play. Of course, attaching from your hand can be kind of difficult, especially when your hand is getting constantly disrupted with things like Reset Stamp and Marnie, but certainly a card to keep on the back burner and obviously a very good effect for a basic Pokemon. We have Ampharos V, Dazzle Blast. Your opponent's active is now confused, and Damage Spark. This attack does 30 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon that already have damage counters. That's pretty common with the Ampharoses to kind of do more damage depending on if your opponent has damage counters or they place damage counters with energy attachments or things like that. Just kind of damage counters going all around with these Ampharos cards, and this one is no exception. Not a card that I look at and say, yeah, this one is going to be played, but in any case, a nice Lightning V Pokemon. Moving on down, our second amazing rare, the Raikou. Now, this Raikou has been getting a lot of interest from a lot of top players and Poketubers because of its amazing shot attack. Now, Snipe should be more of a factor next format when we lose Mew, but still, 120 and 120 Snipe on the bench, I think of it most effective in an expanded format where you have Shaymins being played at just an unbelievable rate. So being able to do 120 to the active knockout of Shaymin, all for, you know, a basic Pokemon, a non-GX, non-VMAX Pokemon is pretty great. The attack cost a little bit harsh. We do have, again, the Tapu Koko. You have Thunder Mountain that you can use for Raikou. And then trying to figure it out. I do hope that they come out with some kind of support for these amazing rares, because this would be a great card that I would look at like a double Rainbow Energy being the perfect kind of thing to pair with these amazing rares. We haven't seen anything like that yet, but I'm hoping that we do see that in the future. Again, a card that I do want to mention because there is a Beedrill that has a similar effect, but this high speed, once during your turn when you play this card from your hand, you can, to evolve your Pokemon, you can draw 3 cards. So maybe not as good as, you know, Zebstrika in the past, but something to just keep an eye on, especially when we have Scoop Up Net. You know, you can Scoop Up Net a Manectric, play it down, draw 3, Scoop Up Net, play it on another Electrike, draw 3, etc., up to potentially 12 cards in a turn, which, I mean, probably better uses of the space in your deck, but wanted to highlight that as well. So moving on down, we have here just another nice little Zekrom card. Wild Shock. This attack does 60 damage to itself, but your opponent's active is now paralyzed. So another auto paralysis. We look at these kinds of cards and you just want to remember these, because auto paralysis generally is good, and the effect is not too bad. Like if you're doing 60 damage to yourself, you're 3-shotting yourself at the benefit of paralysizing your opponent's active Pokemon. So that's pretty good. You're gonna, you know, of course, not 2-shot the VMAX Pokemon, but that's okay because you're paralysizing them. Why do I keep saying paralysizing? Because you're putting them under paralyze lock, and as a basic Pokemon. So there is that huge benefit there. Moving on down, we have some more juice. Where are we at? Here we go. The Bannet. Bannet is an ability that we've seen in the past that hasn't seen a ton of play, but maybe now with VMAXs might be more of a big deal. It's really hard to hit those high numbers for a lot of decks. So potentially hitting into a VMAX, they retreat it to the bench, and then devolving it could be a way to go. So Devo Curse, once during your turn when you play this card, you may devolve one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Good little ability. I'm happy that they print these abilities. Probably doesn't see a ton of play, but there might be a niche in which this card would be really, really good. We have our next V Pokemon. Here we go. Alcremie, Ho-Hum V Pokemon. Nothing too special about Alcremie. But the Alcremie VMAX, it's pretty interesting. Decorate for each of your bench Pokemon. Search your deck for a Psychic Energy and attach it to that Pokemon. We see right there. And then G-Max Finale is the real stunner of the Alcremie VMAX, you know, card. So 60 damage, you may discard any number of energy attached to this Pokemon. This attack does 60 damage for each energy card discarded this way. It doesn't specify psychic energy, so if you have a way to accelerate energy to this card, something like a welder, something like, I don't know, Tapu Koko, get some energy on there. You can discard anything that you want. So maybe there's a way to make this alchemy move with, just not totally psychic Pokemon. You know what I mean? So in any case, it probably works best with something like Malamar. All that to say, probably works best with something like Malamar. We have our next amazing rare, the Zacian. We finally see Zacian in its secondary typing. Metal Arms, attach a basic from your discard pile to this Pokemon. Not too bad for a colorless, especially when you're considering that the second attack costs all three energies like the amazing rares tend to do, the 3 different energies. So I like that first attack being a colorless. If you are going to get this into play and you have to play, grass and metal energy, I'm happy that they didn't make it, type specific for that first attack. But Amazing Sword, if your opponent has a VMAX in play, this attack does 150 more damage. So you could do potentially 300 damage. We were just talking about how a lot of decks can't really one-shot VMAXs, but this is like the perfect card in response to that. And I do really see in these amazing rares the power dynamics kind of flipping. Pokemon is producing these cards that are very strong effects on basic Pokemon with, generally low HP. So kind of trying to power creep out the high damage and high HP VMAXs with these lower HP one prizers that kind of have the benefit of doing these amazing, awesome attacks, but at the cost of the insane attack cost. So Zacian, pretty interesting card. Love to see it. 300 damage, insane. For 3 energy, I mean, on a basic, I'll take it. I have a lot of other cards here, but the next VMAX that I want to talk about is Colossal VMAX. Eruption Blast for 40 damage. Discard a card from the top of your deck. If that card is an energy, this attack does 90 more damage. Then attach that energy to this Pokemon. So, Colossal, easy to do. I mean, we've seen things like this before with like Magcargo. I would say that is the most similar, most analogous kind of comparison to make to this Colossal. And that was a very solid tier 2 deck back when Magcargo was played. So you have something like a Rangaroo that you put back the fighting energy to the top of the deck, and all of a sudden you're doing 130 damage. That's enough to knock out Pikachu Zekrom. That's enough to knock out the Raichu. That's enough to knock out Boltund. So you're really just taking care of all these lightning attackers that are good. Not to mention, Eternatus is weak to fighting, and Crobat is weak to fighting, and Dedenne, of course. But you're just have a pretty good, spread of. You have a pretty good spread of attackers that are good, and that should be good, that are weak to fighting. I think fighting is a really good type. And then when you combine that with the new fighting energy that reduces damage by 20 when you have it attached, I mean, you just attach one of those. Essentially, your Colossal has 350 health. And I mean, 130 every single time is really on a VMAX, like for 1 energy, that's pretty good return on investment. And then you get to attach that energy to that Pokemon. So like you're building up to hit 240, right? Which is great. It's like a really nice first attack that can lead into a sweeping attack. So I love this card. This is a really, really cool card. Should see a lot of play. And then, I didn't say, of course, these translations are a little bit, not perfect, but it does say 1 energy card. If that is true, then you will be able to attach the new special fighting energy if it's the top card of your deck. So that's really another benefit to this as well. Zamazenta, an amazing rare. Metal Arms, 30 damage, attach a base energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. So same thing as Zacian. Amazing Shield, 180, kind of the reverse of the Zacian. This attack, or this Pokemon takes no damage from the attacks of your opponent's VMAXs during your next turn. So again, great art. This looks like, I don't know, graffiti or something. It just looks so fresh. I just absolutely love these arts. I hope that they're not too expensive on release, because I think as a collector, I would want to just get this. It's so unique. I'm like looking at this and all the amazing rares they kind of knocked right out of the park. So kind of the antithesis to the Ashen, where you, instead of kind of one-shotting all the VMAXs, you take no damage from all the VMAXs. So again, pairs a little bit with that Zamazenta V that protects from VMAX. I digress. Again, a hard attack cost to fulfill, but you do have the option to, attach energy from your discard with the metal arms. Again, like the Zacian, you don't have to have an energy requirement for the first attack, which is really nice. Steelix V. Steelix V has the kind of bide attack. Raging Hammer, 30 damage. This attack does 10 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So if you can get up to 240 damage on this Pokemon, you could do 270 for 2 energy. So pretty good. And then when you factor in all the kind of cards that boost health, Big Charm and Giant Cloak, you could boost those numbers even higher. But Steelix seems like it's probably only going to be played for that first attack. Iron Tackle does 210 damage, does 30 damage to itself. Not too bad, but it costs so much that I just don't see that being very viable. I think the first attack is where we're going to go with this Steelix V. Metagross, something I just want to point out, each of your Pokemon has no retreat cost. We've seen this in the past on stage 1s, like Dodrio in the far, far past from like Undaunted or something, and many cards since then, but no retreat cost could be good, although with a card as strong as Air Balloon in the format, I don't know that this is going to play much of a role. Jirachi, another beautiful, amazing rare. Ability Dream Oracle, once during your turn if this Pokemon is your active, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one of them into your hand, and return the other to your deck. So not a true scry. I think that has been my biggest comment with this amazing rare. It's not a true scry. So what do I mean by scry? You take that top card, look at the top 2 cards, take one, and then put the other one to the bottom of the deck. That's a term that's coined in Magic the Gathering. So not a true scry, because you put that other card back to the top of your deck. But if you have an effect that shuffles the deck, then you're basically randomizing that new card and putting that other card to the bottom. So good card. I think it will see a ton of play as kind of our current Jirachi. When that goes out of format in a few rotations, but still something to keep in mind. And obviously the ability is fairly good. We have a better counterpart currently in our current Jirachi. Amazing Star, search your deck for up to 7 basic energy and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. Very strong attack here as well. I'm excited to see how players are going to make this work. Anytime that you can accelerate energy from your discard or from your deck, you got to take notice. You got to sit up and kind of take notice of this card. Very good attack. Galarian Stunfisk. If this Pokemon is your active Pokemon and is damaged by an attack, put 3 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. We've been seeing this kind of effect for a long time, and they just printed Rocky Helmet, which we'll get to. So Rocky Helmet on a Galarian Stunfisk, you're doing 50 damage to your opponent if they attack into you. Not so bad. And then Grip and Squeeze, 90 damage. The defending Pokemon can't retreat during your opponent's next turn. So great art. This looks like right out of like an Adventure Time cartoon, I think. All right, moving on down. This Lugia, absolutely beautiful Lugia. You definitely, collectors are going to want to own this. Wind Pressure, 250. This is why we're talking about this card. Gust for 40, whatever, blase. 250 for 4. If your opponent has 5 or less cards in their hand, this attack does nothing. So pretty easy to come up with that effect, right? Because your opponent wants to have as many cards in their hand as possible, although it is a card that they can play around, right? If they know that your Lugia is coming to do 250 to them, they're going to play cards from their hand to take themselves down. But if you have something like a reset stamp in the early game, you can force your opponent to have more than 6 cards. There are a few other ways to force them to draw cards, but not really worth mentioning, as I don't think that those will be the way to play this card. But certainly an interesting thing to see. 250 for 4, not so bad, but the drawback is pretty easily played around. So will this card see play? You know, let me know down in the comments below, for real. I don't know if this one is has what it takes. We have Rayquaza, next amazing rare. Amazing Burst, 80 damage. Discard all basic energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 80 damage for each type discarded. So you could do, if you fulfill the attack cost and you discard everything, you can do 240 damage, nothing to scoff at. And then if you have a fourth energy, then you can do 320. So I would look at this card to see more play in Expanded, where you have, you know, Ho-Oh, you're getting energy from the discard pile, and then maybe you Ninja Boy into an amazing rare Rayquaza, and then you discard, you know, you use your attachment for turn, you discard 4, do 320 over and over again. That's kind of a convoluted combo and relies on a flip, of course, but that is where I see this card being the most impactful as either a real or a meme deck in Expanded. Finally, we get to our my favorite VMAX Pokemon. This is the Togekiss Max Glide for 2 colorless, 120 damage, and search your deck for any 2 cards. Now, there's no great way to power this up in 1 turn. We do have Welder, you know, we do have any of the other, you know, Malamar, that kind of thing. But powerful energy can go with this, so you can start to max up the damage. Searching out any 2 cards from your deck is so insane. You do damage, 120, you know, you're 3-shotting VMAXs, but I think that can be mitigated again by searching out 2 cards. So you can search out the exact 2 cards that you need in any situation. Might be able to play this card with something like Porygon Z to be able to accelerate energy, and especially with that attack, you can get out the Porygon Z a lot easier. You know, so that is where I see this being played in Standard. There are a couple more ways you can play it, just with a bunch of healing and, you know, maybe a Welder engine or something like that. But this is certainly a card that I would pick up if you ever find it cheap, because at some point in this card's lifetime, it is going to be a high tier deck. Scrolling down, we finally get to our trainers. We get a reprint of Great Ball, a reprint of Switch, a reprint of Pokemon Catcher, and a reprint of Rocky Helmet. Now, Rocky Helmet never saw a ton of play, and it's not really that strong, especially now, but it does 2 damage counters to the attacking Pokemon if the Pokemon that this card was attached to was hit into on the last turn. So Rocky Helmet reprint. If you like the Secret Rare, they're going for about $10 right now on TCG Player. Yes, I looked. Yes, I wanted to pick up a play set, but at $10 a pop, I don't know, too expensive for my blood, you know what I'm saying? But something to keep in mind there. It is a reprint. Hero's Medal, similar to Island Challenge Amulet, the maximum HP of this VMAX Pokemon is reduced by 100. The difference between Island Challenge Amulet and this Hero's Medal is that you can't attach the Hero's Medal if this Pokemon would be knocked out. So that was a different thing from the other card that we've seen in the Island Challenge Amulet. You could attach it whenever, you know, but this one has very specific specifications. We have Moo Moo Cheese, probably my favorite card name out of this set. Heal 30 damage from up to 2 of your Pokemon that have any energy attached to them. So a very like decent like potion-esque type of card, and could combo pretty well with some of the other cards that we've looked at already. Something I'm thinking like Zekrom would be a card that you would want to, you know, maybe heal a couple of Zekroms with this Moo Moo Cheese. We got Beauty. You may play this card if you go first. Ho-Hum, draw 2 cards. Probably won't see any play. Alistair, draw 3 cards. I'm a little more interested in this one. Then discard 3 cards from your hand. So you draw 3, discard 3. Kind of an interesting effect there that we haven't seen on a supporter. Opal, flip 2 coins for each head. Search your deck for a card and put it into your hand. Pretty interesting, I think, for a supporter. That's a very like valid effect, I would say. Flip 2 coins. Put a card from your deck into your hand. So something maybe not as broken as like a computer search in the past or a Twins or something like that, but does have that restriction on the flip. Got a reprint of Marnie, and then a couple of new energy. Aroma Grass, as long as this card is attached to a grass energy, grass Pokemon, it can't be affected by special conditions. And then you also remove all special conditions from that Pokemon. So just beautiful. I love what they do with the sparks on the art. This is just a great looking card and should be a big boon for grass type decks. I could, again, see the utility of this in potentially like an expanded deck to just, since special conditions are a lot more prevalent there. Stone Fighting. This is the fighting energy that is like the baller of this set. Reduces damage by 20 for the fighting Pokemon that it's attached to. Awesome card, and I think should definitely see some play. Kind of a reverse strong energy, but combos really well with Colossal in this set. So moving back up, what did I think of the set overall? I think it has some really unique potential. Again, I love what Pokemon is doing with the amazing rares. I think that those are really awesome. I hope they get some support in the future. I have a hunch that they will. The amazing rares are something that I look out to see how they're kind of power creeping the format. They are putting a lot of effort and energy and resources into promoting these VMAXs, but at the same time, amazing rares are coming out and should shake that up a little bit. They have some pretty powerful effects for being basic Pokemon and non-V and non-GX. The rest of the VMAXs, I'm looking at Colossal as being probably the most impactful, and then you have Togekiss being probably second most impactful, and those are kind of the two that I would look at. Those are the chase cards of this set for sure. Alchemy, blah, Zarude, V, pretty good. Overall, this set has a lot of solid options, and again, we're just hopeful that the amazing rares can take us home on this because they should have some more support. So that is the set review, guys, for what we have. Hope you enjoyed this little first-hand look at what we got going on, and I'll catch you on the next video. Remember, good luck, guys, and also have fun. I'm out.